Next is Marluz. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly. She's waving, if she is. All right, dear Sat Shree and Satyamai, I would love to hear how you feel about fasting. This is a great question, it really is. As many people do, I have some strong habits when it comes to food and catch myself using it as a distraction or a comfort. Reading this book, The Transformational Power of Fasting now, and I'm starting to wonder if this might be something that can create a shift, movement spiritually for me. I might join the 9-day retreat in March and thinking of doing a 3-day juice, 3-day water, 3-day juice during the retreat. Would love to hear your views on this. Thank you so much. Love, Marluz. This has been an ongoing question for us, usually not during the retreats, though.
I will speak to two conversations. One, fasting, and then its role in the 9-day. Fasting is a way of us getting some mastery over the patterns and habits of our design, being in a body, and also using food as a strategy, in our life. So when we pull back from that, if there's a motive to pull back from that, you should follow it, because it's a teaching and it's a laying claim to parts of yourself that you probably haven't laid claim over, or not laid claim over in an effective way. Now, I have fasted in the course of my life before my awakening a lot. Fasting was very much part of my life. And I've come to recognition of the role it played and the role that it got in the way. So part of it is that periodic fasting is done as long as there is some balance, and what you're describing sounds fairly balanced. And it does allow the body to rest, so it doesn't have to always digest and always process food, and it catches up. Now, it's typically, in my experience, takes about 3 days, and then the body becomes purified, and maybe as long as 5 days. But that's what it creates. Is the danger of doing this beyond 3 days is it creates a reaction. So when you go back to food, everything tastes so good, and the body is like a puppy who hasn't been fed in the day. Rum, 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 once it eats everything. So you're looking ultimately for some sustainability. So there comes two places. One, first, the initial effort of the fasting, which is usually lasts for a day or a day and a half. And then you start liking it. That was my experience. You become clearer, your body becomes quieter, the meditations are deeper. And then you forget the food falls away, and you discover, a relatively freedom from food. Now, it takes some time. It takes certain circumstances that help support you. Otherwise, somebody comes in with something absolutely delicious, you'll be in a trauma as you wait the next 2 days of your fast. So the issue is, how do we make it sustainable? And how do you make it sustainable? Now, for me, for 20 years, I fasted 1 day a week. And I did it for 20 years, and I found that it kept me on track. But after 20 years, I recognized I didn't need to do it anymore, and that I was just a habit. And the part of the problem is that every time that I would fast, my body went through a certain stress, and then I would start eating again, and my body went through another kind of stress, just about recovering in time for the next fast. So back then, I was a fanatic, so that was perfectly fine. So it took 20 years for me to get over it. Moderation is the name of the game, as the Gita says. You don't need to fast to progress spiritually. Moderation, however, is always wise. And the moderation is a regular, sustainable restraint about the tendencies of eating imbalanced or incorrect food. In the 9-day, I do not recommend fasting, because the forces at work are going to be turbulent enough, and that the body will go through a comparable process that fasting would otherwise bring. But since most of you are at home doing this, then you should plan to eat moderate, maybe not more fresh, lighter foods. Sometimes for some of you, dense food, proteins are needed to handle the pressure of the energy. So find a diet that has worked for you, and then during the 9-day, you'll discover a greater alertness to what your body is telling you about the food you eat. And that will inform the body. at some point the body will want what's good for it, and it won't want what it's not. That's part of embodiment. These things fade away as a problem. All right, my dear, there you go.